Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to our latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Following our comeback against Swansea on Tuesday, we face a Blackburn Rovers side trying to get into the top six. Now, before I welcome on another very special guest, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, my special guest is a stand up comedian, TV star, and wrote his own book. He has starred in comedy, Man Like Mobeen. He has also been on Live at the Apollo, The Last Leg, and Mock the Week, and is touring the UK in July. It is a pleasure to welcome onto the show Tez Ilyas. Good afternoon, Tez. How are you?
Hi, Craig Bizzle. I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolute pleasure, and I'm sure it's going to be lots and lots of laughs tonight. So, what we'll do is we'll start off with the football, and then we'll move on to your career afterwards. Is that all good for you?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it, mate. It's a bit of
Excellent.
Blackburn chat.
Yep, definitely. Well, it's a massive game, isn't it? Blackburn did look at times this season like you were going to threaten the top two, and then Ben Brereton Diaz, the Chilean striker, suffered two quite bad injuries. How did that derail the automatic hopes?
You know what, Craig? What it was. So Blackburn Rovers, we went to second in the league for a while. And at one point, we were like level on points with first place. I think you guys were first, we were second, Fulham were third, for like a week or two, maybe a game week or something. And then we thought, you know what? Is the Premiership even all that? Who wants to be in the Premier League anyway? What an overrated rubbish league full of prima donnas and world-class players and money. And we thought, oh, we don't, you know what? We're just simple little Blackburn. We don't need that. We don't need that complication. So through a bit of charity endeavors, we started giving a lot of goals to other teams between the months of January and March, well, mid-April, I'd say. And we thought, you know what? Why don't you have some goals at our expense? It's because we're really, really nice like that. And people took, to be honest, they took more advantage of that than was necessary. And we slowly slipped down the table, whereas Bournemouth kind of, you've had a few dips in that, but you've kind of maintained your challenge. Although I'll say this about Bournemouth, and no offense to all the Bournemouth fans watching, no one in this league wants you to get promoted.
Why is that?
Because what happened was you guys are living on these parachute payments, which fair enough, you earned, and them's the rules.
Yeah.
But what happened in January was, while everyone else is scrambling around for loan players or trying to keep hold of any star players and that, Bournemouth went out and bought a whole squad of very good players. And I think that's left the rest of the championship supporters of the other team, especially the teams around the playoffs, a bit like doing the Kevin Keegan. Oh, we'd love it if we. I'll tell you what, we'd love it if we beat them. We'd love it, absolutely love it if we beat them. And that's what I'm feeling about tomorrow. Because if we can beat you, and even if we don't get sixth, but the Nottingham Forest pip you. I'm just saying, the rest of the championship will find it hilarious.
Oh,
And I'm clearly not ingratiating myself with my host here, but I'm just telling you what the word on the street is.
Yep. No, fair enough. And I can see the nightmare scenario panning out. You beat us. Nottingham Forest come down here, and Cookie scores that last-minute header. The player that we sold to Nottingham Forest.
Do you know how funny that would be? I mean, take a subjective Bournemouth hat off for a second. Objectively, you know how funny that would be? It's like when Deeney scored that last-minute goal against Leicester all them years ago in the playoffs. Deeney, that one, which came off the back of that guy diving for Leicester and then missing the penalty. And that made the whole thing funnier. I'm not saying this would be on a par with that because that was unbelievable. Probably one of the greatest championship moments of all time. But I'm just saying, bro, I'm just saying that there's parts of the championship supporting public would find it really funny. I mean, you wouldn't find it funny. You're not finding it funny right now.
No.
But what I'm saying is because what will happen to Blackburn is we'll thrash you and we'll win the last game of the season, and then we'll still finish 7th because Borough will win their last 2 games. That's what will happen to us. Because, of course, we threw it all away in January, February, March. And, of course, right at the end of the season, suddenly we find form when it's mathematically out of our hands. Of course, that's typical Blackburn.
But, Tez, this could potentially, if you win your next 2 games, this could potentially be a playoff semi-final as well.
Yeah. And then hilarity shall ensue. This is what I'm talking about. It would just be really funny. If we beat you, therefore, in the process, stop you getting into the top 2, and then we have to pay you either in the semis, because Huddersfield Town are not that far behind you as well, bro. And then you have to either play in the semis, or you finish 4th, and we end up in the final. Hilarity will ensue.
And then we'll have to do this all again. And you'll have to do a reaction show as well. Hopefully, I'll be able to, turn the words back on you, Tez.
or in the most likely scenario is Bournemouth will just beat us tomorrow. And that will be the end of our playoff hopes. And you guys will cement 2nd place.
That would be nice. That would be
There's
good.
always that scenario. I mean, not for us, but that would be, there's always that scenario.
That's the dream scenario for us, Tez. But you never know what could happen in football. And Steve Cook, a good friend of the channel, he's been on here as well, and he's now playing for Nottingham Forest. So yes, it is our nightmare scenario.
Are you playing Forest last game of the season?
No, we're playing them. We've got 3 games left.
Oh, so it's the game in hand. Your game in hand is against Forest. You know how funny that is? That is so funny.
And do you know what, as well? That game should have been played back in February, but because of Storm Eunice, it couldn't happen. So Nature's could effectively have a bit of a say on this promotion race.
And who's home, yous or them?
We are at home.
Okay.
So
your home record. How's your home record though? It's not been electric.
It's dipped a little bit. We started the season really well, but so
did West Brom.
Yeah.
Where are they now?
They still beat us 2-0, unfortunately.
Well, West Brom don't ever deserve to get promoted back to the Premier League ever. They add nothing to the Premier League. West Brom just add nothing, no value whatsoever to the Premier League. I'm saying that. I'm going on record. I don't care how many baggy fans are listening to this from the Black Country. You have nothing, lads.
Fair enough.
Stay on your level. You'll be back down in a year anyway, so stay where you are.
Wow.
Not you.
Yeah, that's what they seem to do, isn't it? Just jump between the 2 leagues. But they won't be this year.
No, we've kept them this year. We've kept hold of them. We're staying down here.
You might do the same with Norwich next season, but hopefully we won't be there to see that. Hopefully we'll be in the Premier League facing the likes of Man City and getting ruined by VAR again. So, but to be honest, you've been on a little bit of a rough patch of form yourself, but you have just beaten your local rivals, something that we couldn't do, Preston North End, 4-1 at Deepdale as well. How could that have reignited your season?
Right, it came out of nowhere. We've been on such a bad run of form, and I was saying before, in the game beforehand online, I was reading a bit of commentary that, like, of course we're going to hammer Preston today because now sixth place is mathematically out of our hands. So of course we're going to hammer them today, and we probably beat Bournemouth, and we probably beat Birmingham last game of the season, which still won't be enough to finish sixth. Because of course that's us. That is Blackburn Rovers. That is the Blackburn Rovers way of recent years. So that result came out of nowhere. Thing is, we've got a quality squad. Well, a quality 12, 13 players who, when they play well, as we saw earlier in the season, are very, very good. Defensively, we were great at the first half of the season, and our form completely fell away. We've just stopped scoring goals at the worst time of the season. But yeah, that slightly came out of nowhere, although it was very, very welcome. And it was nice to know that actually we can play well when we're in the mood to. And having Diaz back is obviously, I mean, I can't even call him Diaz. It's so funny that his name is Diaz. Having Brereton Diaz back has been a great shot in the arm. And he's played fantastic over the last couple of weeks, even though he hasn't quite got the goals that he deserves. His performances have merited. But we've been a bit unlucky as well. Like against Sheffield United, we missed a penalty in the 80th minute, and then they could scored an injury time goal. And that happened in another game as well, where we missed a late penalty and they scored in injury time. And both games we lost 1-0, but both games we should have won 1-0. So there's a few little games like that have just gone against us. A couple of other injury time goals that we conceded as well. Whereas you guys have done the opposite way, where you've been 3-0 down, you draw 3-all, or you're 1-0 down and you win 2-1 after 2 goals in injury time. You did that 2 weeks in the bounce. So that was quite frustrating. And those are very small margins where if you could have been 9 points down, we could have been 9 points up. Do you know what I mean? Like, very small margins that could have swung either way, because this league is just nuts.
It's such a tough league to get out of, Tez, and it's anybody can spring a result out of nowhere. You might be surprised to hear that we haven't beaten Peterborough. We drew twice with Peterborough.
We lost to Peterborough last week before Preston. Why?
Yeah.
They were already down. Why have we lost to them? We lost to Reading as well, because why not?
Yeah.
Just silly behaviour. And then we probably beat you tomorrow. It's just mad.
Such a strange league. Would Blackburn fans consider this season a success, even if you did miss out on the playoffs, considering the last 10 years?
No. You can't show us the door to heaven and then close it at the last minute and be like, well, you had a little glimpse inside, didn't you? So that's well done. Live off that. No. And the thing is sometimes it's the manner in which we play hasn't quite been good enough. Sometimes we just roll over and we're just a bit too soft at times. And that has been a problem. The second half of the season has been a problem for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
And so, like, there were people calling for us to sell Joe Rothwell to use. I mean, you unsettled him, not you personally, but Bournemouth unsettled him a bit. And people were going, no, sell him. I was like, no, he's one of our best performers. We've got to keep him. Diaz, people were like, 25 million to Sevilla, bite their hands off, sell him. I'm like, no, we might get promoted. And then, of course, he gets injured. Joe Rothwell's form drops off. The whole team's form drops off, and we might end up 7th. I'm like, well, we should have cashed in then, innit, back then? Because Joe Rothwell's on a free this summer now.
And I think we're probably going to go back in for him. Sorry.
Yeah, well, he's on a free now, so it's his business. And if you get promoted, if you get promoted, fair enough. Who's to deny him that? But it's still mad.
Yeah, it most definitely is, and it's Tony Mowbray has been at Blackburn for a number of years now, and he did actually appear in an interview recently, saying that he might want to move away from the club and spend more time, family time, with his children. And would the fans be pleased of a change, or would you want to keep him at Ewood Park?
I'm very, very grateful for everything Tony Mowbray has done for us, because we were. He came to us towards the end of a terrible championship season where we got relegated, and he nearly saved us. But then going down for a season actually helped us quite a bit. and we ended up signing players like Bradley Dack and stuff, which were in the long run, despite his horrific injuries, I've kind of worked out because he's a terrific player. And if he ever does move on, we should get some decent money for him. But I think he's taken us as far as he can go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there comes a point where you look at the manner in which we lose and sometimes concede goals, and you think maybe we need a different approach. Maybe we need someone a bit different in the ears of the players to maybe different type of motivation. Like I'd take Wayne Rooney. I don't know how the other fans would feel about that, but a sort of up and coming, hungry manager that wants to prove themselves. Or that lad from Norwich, what's his name?
Fark.
Fark, yeah. I mean, I don't think we could afford him, to be honest. But he'd be fantastic. But I think someone with a bit more modern ideas of how to play the game. Yeah, this lad, not obviously him because we wouldn't get him, but the guy at Brighton, what's his name? Is it Chris?
Oh,
what's Brighton's manager called? The young lad.
I'm trying to think now. Oh, Graham Potter.
Yeah, Graham Potter, right? I really rate it. Obviously, Brighton's a tricky club because it's difficult for them to compete with the big boys in the Premiership. But he's doing a decent job there, and Brighton, occasionally play some really decent stuff and stuff. Like look at Brentford; they play very nice stuff. So there are not that we'd get those managers, but I'm saying there are obviously managers around because they've come from the lower leagues. I mean, Graham Potter got them promoted. So there are managers around in the lower leagues, probably League One, Championship, who are potentially very, very good, and with the right sets of players can set the world alight. I mean, look at the football that Silva's got Fulham playing, and he flopped in the Premier League at Watford.
Yeah.
Although no one really gets a chance at Watford, to be honest. But I mean, have you got your letter yet? Being called up for Watford? Is that jury service? Isn't it? I think everyone has to do it at some point.
I haven't as yet, no. But I was thinking, even if they did get in contact and Watford said, look, we love your shows, we want you to become our next manager, I think I might decline them because, let's be honest, I'll be out of the job within a month.
Yeah, but that's the point, Craig. Think of the the package that you getting signed. That's why I'd never have sympathy. Well, I do a little bit, but largely I'd never have sympathy for managers who get sacked, because especially Premiership managers and international managers of big countries, you know what they're on, because they get they get their contract paid up.
Yeah.
So every time Mourinho gets sacked, he gets like 5-10 million euros, pounds, or whatever. Bro, give me that job. I would happily go in. I would happily go to Watford for a month, win 1 game out of 7. And then get sacked and get paid up for 2 years. Happily, I will do that in a heartbeat.
It's quite a good idea, Werner. Maybe I shall give up the telecoms instead, and go and manage Watford if they do come calling. Then Tez, you've opened my eyes to it, mate.
You manage Watford for 1 month. You don't have to work for 10 years, lad.
Yeah.
Being a Premiership manager, bro. Like, it doesn't matter if you do a bad job. Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing getting sacked and that publicly. That's never nice. Bro, give me a couple of million quid. That'll soften the blow, let me tell you.
There we are. Well, if there's the Watford chairman listening, me and Tez are already ready to go.
We'll do it together.
We'll do. Yeah, exactly. Together, I think it'd be brilliant. I think we'll be very successful. We can wing it, can't we?
Yeah, we'll be like the Coen brothers of management.
Well, I wanted to also discuss your career, which you've got a fantastic. Your comedy is brilliant. Your comedy is brilliant, and it's very unique in its style as well. Firstly, I wanted to touch on your show. You play part of 8 in Man Like Mobeen, which stars Guz Khan. How did you get your part in the show? And for anybody who hasn't watched it, do tell us a little bit about what the show's about.
I'll do that first. So the show is about 3 friends who grew up together in Birmingham. Guz Khan, who plays the title character Mobeen, is the lead character. And me and Tolu, who plays friends 8 and Nate, are like we're the other main cast in the show, who plays best friends. And then there's also Dua Kareem, who plays his sister, Little Axe, in the show. So we're kind of the 4 main stars of the show. And it's a really funny sitcom, a comedy about life growing up in inner city Birmingham. The Mobeen character had this previous history of being involved in slightly criminal activities. He's moved away that, trying to show his Sister a Better Life, trying to keep his friends on the straight and narrows, friends trying to keep him on the straight and narrow. And then slowly as the seasons progress, he kind of gets pulled back into that world of crime. And there's repercussions that come from that. But largely at heart, it's a very, very funny show where silly and fun things happen. And I play the, every comedy show has got a stupid character. And so my character is the dumb one in Man Like Mobeen. He's a few shillings short of a pound, as they'd say in the old days, in old money. The way I got the part, me and Gus got in touch with each other when Gus came into the comedy scene. It would have been 7-8 years ago now, and we found that we came from a similar type of background, and we got on with each other. We spoke similar shorthand, similar, kind of upbringing. And so we just became mates from that. And so when we've ever had opportunities to cast each other in bits that we're doing, we do that. So the couple of bits that I had that I cast him in, a couple of bits here that he cast me in, and then Man Like Mobeen is the one that took off and became a thing that progressed into a full series. And it was just such a blessing to be able to be part of that. And I did have to do a casting for it though. And me and Guz sort of improvised a scene together. And Guz said to me, when I left the room, the producers were like, "How long have you been practicing that?" And it was like, no, we literally just came up with that now. Like that's just chemistry. We just have that natural chemistry with each other. We literally just made that, whatever you saw, we just made it up on the spot. So they were like, okay, yeah, you are the right person to be with Gus in this show then. And that's how I got started on that. But obviously before that, I'd be doing stand-up for 6-7 years before I started doing Man Like Mobeen. So stand-up is kind of my bread and butter, my day job, even though it's evening. I always say stand-up is my wife. Acting is my mistress.
Excellent. Well, you've been in so many different stand-up shows as well, live at the Apollo. You've also been on shows such as Mock the Week, The Last Leg, and also you did a tour, Testify, which actually sold out nationwide and achieved 65,000 views in a number of weeks. And at the moment, it's on just over 150,000. Am I correct?
Yeah. So Testify was my tour that I did in 2018. We filmed it and we put it out during lockdown 1, the good one. And we put it out then. And yeah, it's 150,000 views, which is, I'm not really, I don't really have a huge footprint online in that YouTube. You get YouTube comics, you get millions of views for things. That wasn't really my space. My space was always live, in the clubs and stuff. So being able to do 150,000 it's like, I'm really, really pleased with it. I've actually filmed. So I went back on tour last year with the Wicked tour, which is my catchphrase in Man Like Mobeen, Wicked. And we filmed that as well in December. And so that's going to be released in the next couple of months. So yeah, my next special is coming out very, very soon. And then I'm going out on tour again in July. It's a little 10-day, 1-week tour in July again, because, you can't keep this guy off the streets.
Exactly. And your comedy is brilliant. And it does bring out as well some really important subjects in society and things but through the comedy aspect. How long does it take you to think of those jokes and put that together?
Putting the shows together takes a little while. Individual jokes can sometimes just come to you in a flash, and other times they can take weeks and a number of gigs to perfect and hone and get right the exact wording and timing and stuff. Whereas other stuff can just come to you and instantly it's going to work on stage, and it does work on stage immediately. So individual jokes can vary between themselves, but putting a show together like Testify probably took about a year to put that together, make it a rounded show with the callbacks and making sure that the stuff I was saying at the beginning was relevant at the end, and making sure the story looped on itself and all that. So that took a little bit of a while to get together. But the individual jokes, they can vary between like literally a flash and a number of shows over a number of weeks. So yeah, it definitely varies. And my writing style is very different. Sometimes things can come very organically on stage to me, but other times I'm literally sitting in front of my phone or whatever, and I use my notes app to write, or sometimes on the MacBook or whatever, and I'm just literally sitting down and having to think, right, what is this joke? What do I want to say? How can I make it funny? How can I make the punchline better? How can I make the setup funnier so the journey's funny as well as the punchline? So yeah, it just varies, and other times things can just come to me instantly. So yeah, it does vary how things come to me.
To be honest, I sometimes think of things and I think, crikey, they're really funny. But when I actually put it out there, I just don't know how to bring it across. And it's a real great art that you've got, because when I watched Testify, it was to be honest, it's a laugh a minute. It really is really funny. With regards to some of the touchy subjects, are you sometimes nervous about those, or do you just go for it?
I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't a little bit nervous. Of course, a little bit nervous when you talk on subjects such as race, terrorism, all those sorts of things that I not that I don't want to say I like talking about them, but there are things that I can talk about because they affect my community, or there's a perception of my community, there's a certain perception of my community that isn't always fair, and so these are things, subjects that I want to talk about in a humorous way, in the way you got people like Chris Rock talking about being black in America, and yeah, sometimes it is you don't know what an individual audience is going to be like, and audiences and their sensitivities do vary across the country. So I find, when you go south of London into Kent, and I know Bournemouth is south of London, but like when you start going into Kent and stuff, things can be a little bit UKIP down there, and so sometimes the comedy you say is perceived a little bit differently to how you might be perceived in London or Birmingham or Bristol or somewhere like that, or even Brighton, which is on the south coast, obviously. So it does, sometimes you can be a bit wary about certain places that you're going, but I always say, like, the show is a show. And people who see my face on the poster, they know what they're getting. Like they know it's gonna be a comedy show that might touch on like certain subjects that I find that on the surface of it might seem serious, but I like to tackle it and make accessible and funny, and for people to maybe have a laugh. Obviously, first and foremost, have a laugh, but also maybe go away and have a little bit of a think about maybe some of the things I said as well, and go away with a slightly different perspective on subjects that they maybe had already formed an opinion on.
One of my favourite jokes that you come out with was with regards to Brexit.
Yeah. No, so I think on that, I said the reason I don't like Brexit is because I'm going to miss the Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
Because for me as an Asian, they're a really good first line of defense against bigots, because the whole thing was about immigration from Eastern Europe. So for me, that takes a load off me. I'm like, oh, great. They're giving it to those guys. Brilliant. Keep them here so I can put them to the front of the queue and they can take the bullets from me and I can just go about my day. So obviously it's a bit more to it than that. And then I mentioned the crowd, are there any Eastern Europeans in? Well, actually, there never are at gigs. And, there's a dead silence. And I'm like, of course there's not. They're working. And that gets a massive laugh because obviously that's the reputation that Eastern Europeans have. So it's kind of like subverting stereotypes slightly and getting the positive out of them rather than focusing on the negative of stereotypes.
One thing as well you've also done is you've released a book called The Secret Diary of a British Muslim aged 13 3/4. Well, what was your inspiration behind that? And 13 3/4, that's quite exact.
Well, the inspiration came from Sue Townsend's brilliant book, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4. So that's where the parody of the title came from.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, 13 3/4, the book starts then and ends up with me at 18 and a half when the day I go to university. And 13 3/4, that's actually a very interesting age because that's the age where, many of us, our bodies start changing, where we start entering puberty. We start thinking more about wider things in life, not just ourselves. That's when we have clear memories of being 13, whereas we don't have the clearest memories of when we were 8, 9, 10 necessarily. But from 13, when you're in high school, you're like, oh yeah, I do remember what that time was like and how I was feeling and who my friends were and what music I enjoyed and what was happening in the wider world around me and how people treated me, how I treated people. So that seemed like a good age to start. And obviously I'm still very, very immature. So I wrote the story. I wrote the book because it's a biography. I wrote the book from the perspective of when I was that age. So I tried to be really truthful to how I remember feeling about certain things that were happening around me, to me, that I was doing. And so the books proved really, really popular among people who grew up in that era, but also people who are curious, younger people, older people who are curious about how kids were going through in that era. So yes, it's been really, really good. I've got it here actually. It's always by my bedside. The Secret Diary of a British Muslim, aged 13 3/4. So it's a proper book, that, isn't it? It's not a novella. It's not a pamphlet. That is a proper book, and
it certainly is.
So yeah, it's available to buy. It's also an audio book. So if you prefer listening to books rather than reading them, I do the narrating. Of course, I'm a comedian. Of course, I'm going to narrate my own
Yeah.
book. So if you've got an Audible account, use your monthly voucher to get my book, maybe. And of course, it's on Kindle as well. The old everything is two hands. You can get a Kindle as well. I need to charge that. And you can get it on ebook as well. But also, it's coming out in paperback this summer, which is why I'm
Mhm,
going out on tour. So I'm going out for a comedy show. It's going to be a stand-up
mhm.
comedy show. But with every single ticket purchase, you will get a free copy of the paperback of the book. And there will be a Q&A in the second half of the show where I'm interviewed by a good friend of mine about the book and growing up. And then people in the audience can ask me questions. And then at the end, there is a meet and greet where I will do a book signing and people can take pictures and stuff. So we'll be doing that for a week, over 10 shows this July. I think, to be honest, the closest I'm coming to Bournemouth is London and or Bristol. I don't know which one is close. I think they're both not that close to you.
Bristol's fairly close.
Oh, okay, all
Bristol's
right.
fairly
Well, I'm
close.
in,
Yeah, there
I'm
you
in, I'm
go.
in Bristol. I'm in Bristol
There
on
you are.
on Sunday the 14th of July. Don't quote me on that. The Sunday of that week, I'm in Bristol at the Hen and Chicken Studio, it's a room that I love. Yeah, so come on if you enjoy any of this chat, maybe boo me about my Bournemouth views. Rub it into me if you get promoted. Rub it into me if you get promoted and we don't. But yeah, come on, check it out. The show will be lots of fun, and you learn a bit more about me.
And all the details of Tez's tour will be in the description as well below. So, by all means, do order your ticket. And also, when you do go, wear your Bournemouth shirt as well.
And throw some cherries at me. Never or cherry tomatoes.
Yeah. No, we're going to keep. We will do that. Don't you worry. We will do that. um, how do you find being in a studio when compared to being on stand up? How different is that?
It's so different. There's nothing quite like the energy of live stand-up comedy, especially in a club night, Friday, Saturday night, when the good British public have had a couple of they've downed a couple of pints or whatever, had a couple of bevies, and they're on it slightly. They're not drunk, but they're on it a little bit, and it's amazing performing to those audiences. It's just incredible the energy that British audiences have, because we've got the greatest sense of humor in the world, and
Oh
quite a
yeah.
sophisticated sense of humor where we like a lot of different things. We like quite puerile, immature fart jokes, and then we like quite highbrow Stuart Lee type comedy, and everything in between. So, there's the British palette is very diverse when it comes to comedy, and we're very, very well served through our comedy offering, through stand up, comedy shows, sketch shows, all that sort of stuff. So we are very spoiled in this nation, and obviously we get great imports from America and Australia and beyond as well. So we are blessed. So yeah, I just love stand up in front of a live audience, getting that immediate feedback. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, and it is really funny. So there is also a link to Testify in the description as well. So do watch that as well. And honestly, you will be laughing every minute. I can assure you that. What else have you got coming up, Tez? Do tell us, apart from the tour.
So I've got the tour coming up, of course. Starting a podcast very soon with my good friend Ishan Akbar. So
Mhm.
what you on about is what it's called, because
Yeah.
everyone's got that sort of what you're on about. Sort of we will probably say it 4 or 5 times a day to each other. So that's what the podcast is called, where we just chat absolute garbage to each other, and then it's like, mate, what you on about? So that I think that'd be really fun. And then just watch the space. I got a couple of irons in the fire. A bit too early to say what might and might not happen, because in this business it's so difficult to get stuff made. There's so many development opportunities you get and ideas you pitch and stuff, and then nothing comes off it. So until something is firmly being made and commissioned, I just like to keep those cards close to my chest. But yeah, watch this space. But stand up is always there, so come and see me do stand up, if nothing else.
Fourth series of Man Like Mobeen.
Who knows? Who knows? It's not. Gus is in charge of that, so he's the person to ask.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you remember how the third series ended? No spoilers.
Mhm.
So, you know,
You never know. Never
yeah.
know. Also, do tell us. I did watch a couple of videos of your YouTube channel as well, and one of them, believe it or not, I've got an old Sega Mega Drive as well, and you was telling us, everybody, how shit Tails is. How shit is he?
Oh my god,
Considering the Sonic movies out,
I hate that. I hate that little fox so much. So I'm playing Mega Drive because I've got this like new Mega Drive things to do. There's like mini ones you can plug in, whatever. And I was doing a bit of streaming during the pandemic, keeping myself occupied. And I was streaming these old Sega Mega Drive games, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a game that I loved. But in the original Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Drive games, you could switch Tails off and just go as Sonic, so you're not distracted by this little piece of shit that wants to come with his adventures and is not qualified for them. So, but in this version of it, you couldn't switch him off, so you're burdened with this little idiot just ruining everything. And so once you get 50 rings, you can click on the checkpoint and you can be entered into the transported into the sort of game world where you collect rings for an emerald. You have to collect a certain amount of rings to collect an emerald. So I'm doing this. I'm controlling Sonic. The computer is controlling Tails. So Tails has to jump when I jump. But the thing is that there's a slight delay on Tails' jump. So he doesn't jump when I jump, and then he delays himself for a second and then jumps. And so every time I'm dodging things, like these little bomb things to avoid, losing my rings and stuff, he just gets knocked over by them every single time. And I just got so vexed because I'm like, just jump when I'm jumping in it.
Yeah.
I'm getting worked up about it now. I mean, go watch the video, it makes sense, but I was vexed, absolutely vexed.
Do you know what? It was a video that kind of put my childhood into perspective, and I thought, you know what? This has pissed me off all these years, because you're quite right. It just doesn't work, does it?
Oh, I hate Tails so much. That's why I haven't gone to see the Sonic movie yet, because I'm just going to be, every time Tails comes on screen, I'm going to be like, boo, boo. And there's going to be a kid in the audience going, Mummy, why is the bearded man ruining the show? Boo! Like that the whole time.
Do you know what? When you're going to watch the Sonic 2 movie, I'm going to sit right behind you as well, because I want you to do that. And I just want all the kids to be just completely confused what's going on.
They're like, Mummy, I thought he was the hero. Boo!
Finally, how do you reckon this is going to go? I think I know what you're going to say. I think you're going to say that you're going to ruin our promotion dream. Is that what you?
Yeah. Pressure's off us. Mathematically, is out of our hands. So we need QPR. Sorry, we need Sheffield United to lose tonight to QPR. Mm-hmm. Come on, QPR. And we need Borough to drop points, like draw one of the last two games. So we need both of those things to happen. And we need to win both our games. But I think slightly the pressure is off us. There's a lot of pressure on you guys because Nottingham Forest, and you're playing them midweek, and Huddersfield Town are breathing down your necks. Because if Huddersfield win this weekend and you lose to us and Forest, then you're fourth.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of pressure on you guys. Scotty P's obviously got a lot of pressure on him. Fulham fans hate him, by the way. So I heard that first time from Fulham fans when I went to watch us there. And so I think we're going to turn you over like quite convincingly, like a little cheeky 3-0, I think.
I hope you're wrong, Tez, because that will, especially, and to be fair, we could be below them. You know, if that happens, if they beat Swansea 3-0 and we lose 3-0, we're in third spot going into that massive game.
And if Huddersfield win as well.
Yes. Yeah, it could. It could look a lot more desperate. But then again, we could go and beat them midweek.
You guys are the king of comebacks, though. Like 3-0 down, 3-0, 1-0 down, 2-1. You did that twice in consecutive weeks. I was so annoyed because I was like, because that's when we were still like third or fourth. And I was like, oh, we could win our game and catch Bournemouth because they're losing. And then, I mean, we ended up losing anyway. But like, then you guys just turned it around. And I was like, why can't we do that? Where's our little comebacks in the time? Why can't we score 2 goals? Just pissed me off no end.
To be honest, it's not all been plain sailing. Unfortunately, Blackpool come back from when we was 2-0 up earlier on in the season and got booted back to 2-0. And somehow Reading did that as well. at home.
We beat you, didn't we? We beat you in the first game, didn't we?
Yeah, and you said, Tez, that you allow teams to have lots of goals. You didn't let us have any.
No, that's because
So maybe,
we were on the ascendancy then. It's since January
yeah.
we've become really charitable. You're unfortunate not to play us in January, February, March, because now it's like the post Easter period is over. We're like, all right, we've done our charity bit. Let's get back on it. Now that we can't get promoted, let's get back on it.
Well, you never know. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be back charitable tomorrow, and think, well, little old Bournemouth.
Maybe we'll both go up.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
We could beat you tomorrow, but you could still go up, and then we could go up through the playoffs. Who knows?
It would be a crazy scenario, to be fair. But it could happen.
If we're both in the playoffs, then only one of us or none of us would go up. Probably end up being Huddersfield Town. But we could still beat you, and Forest might draw tomorrow. You never these things happen. Forest lost last week, didn't they? They lost.
Got beat by Luton of all teams, and Luton were down to 10 men.
Luton are on fire though. Luton are safely in the playoffs though. Out of nowhere. Yeah. Who fancied Luton before the season started? No one likes them. No. They're the most Millwall team outside of Millwall.
Well, to be honest, they could get in it as well. But hopefully we'll put pay to Millwall getting in there. Because let's be honest, does the Premier League want Millwall
or Luton?
Luton?
Millwall. Oh yeah, Millwall on the same points as us. So Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, us and Millwall are vying for that 6th spot. And at the moment, it's advantage Sheffield United. They're playing tonight against QPR though, away, which is a tricky game.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough have got the easiest running. Middlesbrough have got 2 mid-table teams, which sometimes can be the tricky ones. But they've got on paper, they've got the easiest 2 games. Because Sheffield United are playing Fulham next week as well. So they've got QPR and Fulham next. So they could potentially slip up there. But then we also need Middlesbrough to slip up, and we need to win both our games. So it's a bit,
But you never know. We might both be in the Premier League. We might be looking back at this show and thinking, well, there wasn't anything to worry about, was there? Forest just roll over for us. If anything's that simple. But Tez, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
And
all the very, very best with what you do in the future. And like I say, do check out Tez's show, check out Tez's book, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you never know, we might be doing this next season again.
One way or another. Maybe a random FA Cup game.
Yeah, or we'll just welcome you on so you can have a chat about the tour.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
And see you in Bristol, Craig.
Yes, I will certainly be there, Tez. Well, thank you so much for being on. All the very best, Tez.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this special opposition preview show. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also remember to watch our interviews. We recently had Stefan Rodri on, who's a Swansea City supporter. We also have had interviews with Jeff Winter. We've had Harry Redknapp, Steve Cook, Steve Fletcher, Efan Akuku, Luther Blizzett, and lots more. So please do check out those videos. Until the next video, Up the Cherries, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that these 3 games, at the end of them, we'll see ourselves back in the Premier League.